And so we went to Frankfort, Kentucky. How many of you have been to Frankfort? Thank you, you imagine, we're close by. Michael used to live there, so I got to see his old stomping grounds and meet his old friends that he knew and got to know them. We had a good time. Of course, Frankfort is the home of Daniel Boone's grave. I had no idea. And of course, we couldn't leave without touring the bourbon distillery. Although we were a little late for the tour, but we weren't too late to go to Ruth's Chocolate Bourbon Ball store. And I've never had these bourbon balls before. I'm not a big drinker, so I didn't think I'd like them. But once I get into one of them, I was like, oh my God, heaven is on earth. So we bought a bag of the seconds, and I'm allowing myself 2 a day until they're gone. And then to balance the food groups, we stopped at Shakertown on the way home. I don't know if you've ever been to Shakertown. It's an amazing place. And the biscuits there for breakfast were, I kid you not, that big, and they were half bread, half biscuits. Anyway, this message isn't about food. We may want to go there someday. Oh darn, I know, all together now. But on the way up, I wasn't sure we were going to enjoy our vacation because they kept having warning signs on the highway. Warning, Jesus is coming. Are you ready? It was more of a threat. I mean, if Jesus was coming, wouldn't we want to celebrate that?
Yeah.
You know, here at Unity, we'd have a potluck and we'd celebrate our oneness, right? But all of our warning, he's coming, are you ready? And, you know, the worldly powers that be play on our fears for so much in our life. Because they know that peace is a place of power. We have to stay away from fear. Peace is a place of power. And the real second coming of the Christ is when we celebrate our oneness in the Christ, celebrate our awakening, that we are the Christ collectively. Now, the world powers rule by fear, of course. So, I mean, how many of you in your life think that if you just won the lottery, you'd be at peace? Anybody ever have that fantasy? Come on, I know everybody's had that fantasy. Come on, we all have. But somebody once told me, you know, when people wish for that, they aren't really wishing for the money. They're wishing for peace of mind. If I had that much money, I wouldn't have to worry anymore. But if you know George Carlin's old routine, it can actually make it worse because you end up with all this stuff and worry about what you're going to do with it. You have a whole new set of worries the more you have. I mean, you get a lot of stuff. You got to clean it, insure it, maintain it, take care of it, protect it. And then your biggest fear, talk about having fear, is the fear of losing it. Somebody might take it from you and might get broken, stolen, whatever. I love it. The Course of Love this week said, the maintenance of your fear keeps you very busy. Anybody here waste a lot of time maintaining your fears? I know I've been guilty of that. So we can choose peace without having to buy a lottery ticket. And today's message is the heavenly peace of accepting what is. The heavenly peace of just accepting whatever is. What a discipline that is. And it almost sounds passive. I mean, right away I can hear you. You're not talking, but I can hear your mind. You're saying, oh, well, what about? What about? It doesn't mean you don't do anything. It doesn't mean you don't go after your dreams. It doesn't mean you accept abuse. It doesn't mean you don't have boundaries and so on and so on. You do what you can, accepting what is. And acceptance is total freedom of fear and judgment of what is. And I tell you what, I don't know about you, but that's a lifelong journey for me, getting to that point of total acceptance, choosing peace of mind, because as soon as you enter peace, you're connected with the one presence, one power, your source and substance, and you can receive that guidance because you're in a higher vibration above the lower density of fear. There was an author called Adi Ashante who wrote Falling into Grace. And he said, our instability is caused by our constant arguing with what's happening. Any of you here like to do that, especially when you're watching the news? Do you constantly argue or look at the world? This shouldn't be. Why is this happening? To tell life that it shouldn't be the way it is a type of insanity. The greatest generator of conflict is addiction to interpreting and evaluating, and I would add judging, each and every moment of our experience. Oh man, that is a discipline. I'm even that way about the weather. It's either too hot or too cold. I have this narrow range of 10 degrees that I would like the weather to be all the time. And then even in the house, I'm constantly putting the thermostat up and down to get into that range where I'm comfortable. And the Course of Love reminded me again this week, why then do you think that peace is endless sunshine? Peace is merely the enjoyment of the rain and the sun, the night as well as the day, without judgment cast upon it. Peace shines on all that you would look upon, as well as every situation you would face, every situation. So we have to forgive reality for being what it is. Reality, this plane of duality, is just what it is. And we're born into this reality of duality. When we came here, when we chose to be born, we came to experience the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what duality is. If there's good, there's bad. If there's joy, there's sorrow. We came to experience it all for our soul's evolution. And there's always something that could rob us of our peace of mind. I always think, okay, this week, if this just gets taken care of, I'll be at peace. And then something else comes up. It's like one of those little toys where you push something down and another one comes up. We're born into duality. We have to accept what is. And of course, people as a minister, people ask me, well, do you practice what you preach? And I say, oh God, I practice. And I still don't get it right all the time. I'm just like you, practice. And I always say, people come up to me sometimes and say, oh, you said just what I needed to hear. And I said, no, I'm preaching what I'm going through. You know, the collective, we're all going through the same kind of energy at the same time. I'm talking about what I'm feeling because I know everybody else is feeling it too. Now, one of the times I did accept what was, am I hearing something through am I hearing a drumming sound or something? Okay, Michael's not on the drums, so we must have a ghost drummer. Is that helping? I don't know what that is, but anyway, we'll go on. Accept what is, right? So anyway, before I came here, and I think I might have shared this. There we go, now it's gone. I think I might have shared this with you before, but my last airplane trip before I moved to Tennessee was going to fly out to Rancho Cucamonga. Yes, there is a town called Cucamonga. Rancho Cucamonga in California, where my son lives and his lovely wife. And wouldn't you know, that weekend, Tucson, believe it or not, had a blizzard. I mean, believe it or not. Once in a while, south of Tucson, we get a little snow and it would melt immediately. But there was actually a blizzard, and bless his heart, Michael took me to the airport and the snow was blowing. We shouldn't have even been on the road. But he got me to the airport and I waited all day, and flights were canceling like crazy. By the end of the day, every flight had been canceled because in Tucson they don't have a clue what to do with snow, so all flights were canceled. So I thought, okay, fine. I went home the next day, we braved it again. At this time the snow had stopped and I thought, well, we'll get on the plane today. This plane, just as we were about to board, was canceled because of mechanical failure. And everybody was upset, everybody was running around. And this one lady next to me looked at me and she said, how can you still smile? And I just rolled my eyes and said, I gotta practice what I preach. She didn't get that at all, but it's not that I wasn't disappointed, but you do what you can, and then you just have to accept what is. You don't have to be a 12-stepper to pray the serenity prayer. And we'll pray it together at the end, but it's so beautiful. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, the worst part about this experience was the second day with the mechanical problem. Somehow I arrived early because I'm always early. If you know me, I'm an early bird. And my luggage got on a different plane and went to California without me. And so, here I was figuring I'm never going to see that luggage again. And I had to accept that. And you know how it is when you're flying, especially going to see my son. I wanted to look my best. I had all my best clothes, all my best accessories. Not that they're that great or that many of them, but it was like I had to accept. I just lost all that. So, okay, I worked through that, and I had to accept that. The course of love reminds us that when we resist and don't accept, we withhold a part of ourselves from every situation, and we don't accept the blessing. Now, once I accepted everything, the third time was a charm. This was 4 days later from the original flight. They finally got me on a flight. And interestingly enough, an hour before I left the house, the airline came up with my lost luggage that had already been to California and back without me. But it had a good time, and I figured I would. There's an old saying, the way in is the way out. And sometimes I try to go around things or above things. The way through is the way through, by not resisting, by not judging, by not fighting it, accepting what is. And I've learned, like many of you have, not to sound like a biblical fundamentalist, but I love Romans 8, God turns all things to good. And we're not talking about a man in the sky saying, I'm going to turn your thing to good, but not yours. We're talking about when we shift into peace, we shift into our divine nature, and all unfolds in that divine order. All unfolds for our highest good, because peace has a creative power that fear cannot match. And in that presence, that centeredness of peace, you're able to receive the guidance. You're able to have the strength, the nurturing to do what needs to be done. Those who could not change the world one iota through their constant effort in peace create the world anew. Creating a new world through peace. So let's talk for a moment. My favorite topic, one of my favorites, is the difference between feelings and emotions, because a lot of people interchange the word feeling and emotion like they're the same thing. Now, this is just the gospel according to Ann Marie. You can take it or leave it. That's a nice part about unity. But to me, emotions are when I react to what's going on. Something happens and I react. I'm happy, sad, angry, whatever. That's an emotion. It's the language of the separated self, always reacting to what's going on. And we create from the emotions of that, because in unity we say our thoughts have creative power, but our feelings and emotions have even more power. So we get into these cycles where we're creating through those emotional reactions more of the same. We all know people who are addicted to drama, and there's always a drama going on in their life because they're creating their future from those emotional feelings, and they don't understand the connection. Do you want a future created from peace, or do you want a future created from those emotional dramas? Now, what is a feeling then? A feeling is a language of spirit. Your divine feminine is your feeling nature. Those inner promptings, ooh, I'm feeling like I need to do this. I'm feeling like I should go there or not there or whatever. And you can trust those inner promptings, those feelings that guide you like a rudder to a higher place. When life is going different than we want, and it happens all the time on this lower plane of duality. Author Roger Hostin from 10 Poems to Change Your Life, you know how I love that series. He said, we're all too busy trying to make things happen, especially us metaphysicians, so we're taught we can make things happen. And it's the natural current of your life, which may want to go one way even as you're trying to go another. Anybody have that happen? I'm going to do this and life is taking me there. This is the current that often is responsible for the plans that seem to go awry, like me not being able to get on that plane. For the doors that refuse to open despite your persistent knocking. The same current places sudden and unforeseeable circumstances and opportunities in your way. A deeper, truer life, truer to your authentic pattern, is wanting you to follow its course. except its voice is quiet and cannot easily be heard in daily commotion. Those inner feelings tugging and pulling you this way and that way. So by accepting what is, we can fully embrace every now moment, accepting what is. I may not like this, but I'm going to accept what is. Trust the one presence, the one power, the flow of the universe that's taken us all there to that higher place. And then create your future through that feeling of peace. That power of creating our future through peace. So Shamara, if we could put the Serenity Prayer on the screen, let's all say this together with that feeling of our oneness with the divine. Together, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All together now, amen. Together, amen, and so it is. All right, Brandon.